there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com here with this week's episode of the Rogues Alley. This week I'm going to be trying a deck that I played against in one of the leagues that I was entered in. Actually lost to this deck twice in a row with my Black-Green Aristocrats deck, or Black-Green Fabricate deck that I played for the past 2 weeks. Thought it was a cool idea, so I thought I'd try my own version. This is called 4-color Gearhulks. What you're trying to do is you're trying to reanimate a Gearhulk as quickly as possible with Refurbish. So we're going to try to put as many Gearhulks in the graveyard as possible, find the Refurbish, and turn 4, try to get out like a Noxious Gearhulk would be the one that we'd want, or a Cataclysmic Gearhulk. We do also have 2 of the other Gearhulks, the 2 of the red ones and 2 of the blue ones, as well as a Consul Flagship that we can reanimate with the Refurbish. The other reanimation spell in the deck is going to be Ever After. It's only a 1-of in the deck because even though that we want to animate as quickly as possible, sometimes the best the best route is just to stall until you can just start hard casting your Gearhulks. And so we have cards like Lightning Axe and Fiery Temper to get the job done there. So I actually forgot one card in here. We're gonna run one of the flicker effects in here that from the Shadows of Innistrad. This is a 1-of because it makes Torrential Gearhulk a very, very fun card. Eerie Interlude. It needs to be in 1-of in the main as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw over into the sideboard another, probably a Lightning Axe over to the sideboard or one of these other cards, and we'll call it good. So I think usually have the Consul's Flagship over in the sideboard, and we bring it against decks that it's actually good against. So anyway, Eerie Interlude allows for an instant that we can abuse with Torrential Gearhulk and multiple cards out. It also is fun just to Eerie Interlude on like a Combustible Gearhulk when they try to destroy it, or a Noxious Gearhulk, and you can get some value. Only like as a 1-of. Same with Ever After. If you have too many of these in your hand, then it kind of takes the power level of the deck down, and you get some very awkward draws. So we have, as far as our main board control, we have Lightning Axe, Fiery Tempers, a 1-of Anguished Unmaking, and a 2-of Unlicensed Disintegration. These can also be hit they're all instant speed cards, so they can be hit with the Torrential Gearhulk, and they usually do a pretty good job of taking care of the like Black-Green Delirium decks or the Spirit decks. I have not been a fan of Radiant Flames in the main. There's only a few matchups where I actually like Radiant Flames. One of them is Red-White Tokens, and because a lot of the times the vehicle decks, it just completely dodges. You kill like 1 or 2 cards, and it's just better to keep down the choppers with like Fiery Tempers or Unlicensed Disintegrations or Lightning Axe than it is with Radiant Flames. But Radiant Flames is definitely good against the decks that it is extremely good against, like Red-White Tokens, for example. And we have 2 more Incendiary Sabotages. So our anti-aggro package comes in with the Filigree Familiars, Incendiary Sabotages, and Radiant Flames. We have 1 more Unlicensed Disintegration and Anguished Unmaking that we can bring in from the sideboard, as well as Pick the Brain. Pick the Brain off of Cathartic Reunion comes out on time. Cathartic Reunion, you will discard 1 of your Gearhulks, so there is creature, artifact, sorcery, and then if you just ditch a land or an instant with the Cathartic Reunion, then the Pick the Brain on turn 3 can get rid of a card out of your opponent's hand, and all of them. So like this is the card that comes in versus the Colossus deck, comes in versus the Aetherix Marvel. I think it's incredibly powerful versus those particularly. I'll probably bring it in versus Spirits if we can get rid of every Avacyn or Gideon before they can come out. That's also a pretty powerful interaction there, a pretty powerful turn 3 play. So how we get everything in, of course, the graveyard is Cathartic Reunion, Tormenting Voice. We're playing 10 of the fast lands, so 4 Inspiring Vantages, 4 Spirebluff Canals, because red is the most important color in this deck, and then just 2 of the Concealed Courtyards, because the black and the white are kind of they're really good for the Gearhulks, the Noxious and the Cataclysmic, and as well as Refurbish. But it doesn't set up early Cathartic Reunion and Tormenting Voices. So we should have enough just basic lands through the plains or the swamps or the hubs to get the 2 mana we need for the Gearhulks, Cataclysmic or Noxious Gearhulks. And we have 2 Evolving Wilds too that can go get the basic lands of our choice. And also Evolving Wilds is a way to get a Delirium and pick the brain in the graveyard quickly. So not much to this, just tries to control that early game, and we're just going to try to win the game with the Gearhulk. So I don't expect this deck to do phenomenally well. It's going to have some good matchups versus the later mid-range type matchups. It's probably be very weak versus control. I've also had a little bit of problems versus red-white vehicles. Red-white tokens is usually okay to play against, and so is a lot of like the U-White spirits can be tough depending on the draws. But a lot of the other creature-based decks, like the green-black Delirium, a lot of times this deck does very well against. They just don't have a lot of answers against when you get out a Cataclysmic Gearhulk or a Noxious Gearhulk, and then just start chaining them off with more Refurbishes. Because Refurbish is just acting like additional copies of these cards. All of them are pretty good, pretty solid when you get them out. I thought about putting some sort of ramp in here. I've had Prophetic Prisms in here just to smooth the mana base out, but I think Filigree Familiar is just better with the Incendiary Sabotage route. Incendiary Sabotage can also be hit with Torrential Gearhulk, so there's another way to wipe the board. And I think that I've had Nahiri in this deck as well, and maybe we'll put in Nahiri if we run into more of the control-based matchups. I think actually let's go ahead and throw some Nahiris in here and see where it's kind of awkward though with Nahiri where we would put the other cards in. I think I'm going to bring in 2 Nahiris, and I think it would have to be like a Lightning Axe over to the sideboard. Yeah, I don't even know if they'd go main or not, or where we'd put the Nahiri in. I think we'd have to kind of pick the brain and maybe a familiar. And maybe we'll go 1 main, 1 sideboard, and just completely cut a lightning. I think Lightning Axe is kind of a necessary card in here. Anguished Unmaking I found out to be a little bit better than Licensed Disintegration, and yeah, it just have to be. We'd have to cut one of probably Lightning Axe. I think would be the right play, because we need the Cathartic Reunions and Tormenting Voices, and a Lightning Axe would be 3 Lightning Axes. Lightning Axes are just so good right now against a lot of the vehicle-based decks. And I'll put 1 sideboard. We'll just cut a familiar out of the sideboard. I know that gives us kind of a worse way for the Incendiary Sabotage, just the 2 of familiars to hit off that. But I think that's fine. We want to try Nahiri for sure in this deck. So that will be my 60 cards. I know we've kind of done this on the fly. That's usually how I roll with Magic the Gathering. So 2 Nahiri, 1 main, 1 side, will give us some more play versus the control-based matchups. And I think it's actually pretty good to have Nahiri. Nahiri is really good with like Noxious Gearhulk especially, because it's just 2 activations with Nahiri, and then you can pop Nahiri and go get a Noxious Gearhulk. Or the cool thing too is Nahiri does discard a card, so it does get those Gearhulks into the graveyard. I don't know if it's actually going to be a decent card. In fact, we probably do need to put Nahiri in the sideboard against decks that it's good against, and put the Lightning Axe back main. I think this is the list we'll run, and then these other cards can come in versus the matchups they're relevant against. Anyway, we'll queue this up in either a league or some 2-mans. This has been Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.